Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial. We are going to learn about environmental setup in our PC operating system in order to test or execute the bash scripts. Now we are also going to learn about overview of bash script utilities. Now, bash scripts was introduced to automate repetitive command sequences. This is basically used in the organizations to automate stuff. Now we are going to check some utilities of the bash scripts. Now here, as we can see, there are many utility of the bash script, but we have taken few important utilities like server activities. Now there are many server activities which we need to carry out on a particular duration, as maybe daily or monthly basis or maybe yearly basis. So the server activities like deleting the log files, cache files, and there are file transfers which we need to carry out from one server to another server on a particular duration, and we have to check the health status of a server. So all these things can be manually done by any human operator, but what we can do, we can prepare some bash script and we want to run it on a particular duration, and we want to send the report in any email so that we can get all the status of the tasks. So all these server activities can be done via bash scripts. Now there are other utilities like deployment of codes. So deployment of codes is like there are many codes written in other programming languages, and it can be deployed from one server to another server easily by bash scripts. It's like sometimes we need to transfer the written codes from development server to test server, and then from test server to production server. So what we can do, we can make one bash script which can transfer all the codes from one server to other server or from one server to other client machines. Now deployment of programs, there are various programs. It may be the software program or maybe the patches, software related patches which we want to deploy into many client machine. So what we can do, we can schedule a bash script which will do this task for us, and we can deploy all these patches or programs from server to client machines or from server to server. Now schedule task, there may be few tasks which we want to carry out in our server or in the client machine on a particular duration or in a particular scheduled time. So what we can do, we can prepare a bash script and we can carry out the task on that scheduled time. Now bash scripts are stored in text files which can be Notepad, WordPad, or any other word processor applications available in the market. It can be Microsoft Office Word or LibreOffice or OpenOffice document. Now these files have the special extension BAT or CMD, which stands for batch or command. Now we have to use this file extension when we will be preparing any batch script. Now files of this type are recognized and executed through an interface by a system file called the command interpreter. In Windows systems, this interpreter is known as cmd.exe. Now as we already know that Windows applications are run by some .exe files or the executable files, and these files are resides inside the system folder in the C drive or where the operating system has been installed. Now before we start preparing any bash script, we need to know that how a bash script is prepared and how we can execute them. Now in order to do that, we can simply use Notepad to write bash scripts. This is the simplest tool for creation of batch files. Next is the execution environment for the bash scripts. On Windows systems, this is done via the command prompt or cmd.exe. Now what we can do, we can go to start menu, then we search for a run and click on run. After that, in the text box which appears, we write cmd and then hit enter or click OK. Now once that is done, a command line interpreter will appear, and now as we can see in this section, the cmd.exe path is appearing. That is C, where my operating system has been installed, and there the folder Windows, under that system32 where all the system32 files resides, and the cmd.exe. Now we can check the same from my computer, and if we go to C, the C drive, we can see the Windows folder, and inside that we can search for system32, and here we can search for cmd. So this .exe file is actually responsible for running this command line interpreter. Now we can simply close it. So this is the way we can run the command line interpreter. Now running a batch file is a simple matter of just clicking on it, or what we can do, we can right click on it and run as administrator to run the file. Now batch file can also be run in a command prompt, what we have just shown. Now command prompt or the start line command can also be used. In such case, we have to use the full path name of the file where it resides into the system. Now we will follow some best practices during the code practice. Here is a bash script to show you the best practices we can follow during the coding in batch programming. This program have comments which describes what we want to carry out by each and every commands. Now we can go to start menu, then in the same way we can search for run, click on run, and then in the text box type cmd, then hit enter or click OK. Now as we can see, it is showing the current version of Microsoft disk operating system, which is 6.1.7601, and we can see the copyright as well. Now we can execute some command here. Now we want to know the current time or the system time. So just type time and hit enter. It will show the current system time, and if we want to change the system time, then it's also prompting for that one. If we really need to change the system time, then we can do the same from here. Else we can press Ctrl C to jump into the next line, and the cursor will appear and it will wait for the next command. Now I want to give a command to know the version. So to know the version, the command is ver, and if we hit enter, it will show the current version of DOS. That is the disk operating system, which is 6.1.7601, as it was appearing in the very first line when we have opened the command line interface. So the same way, I want to know the date. So it will show us the system date, and if we want to change the date, if in case there is any wrong date in the system, we can change the same from here, and if we don't require that, we can press Ctrl C to break the line. Now these are the command which we want to carry out separately, or we can say manually, one after another. Now what we want to do, we want to carry out all these commands from a single batch script. So in order to do that, I'm just closing the current window and going to Start menu, click on Notepad. Now what we will do, we'll put some command which will not be executed, but it's required for documentation purpose, which is the best practice for any programming language. So we are putting a command here is like checking version, system time, and system date. So this line will not be executed, but it will be there in the bash script, so that anyone else who open the file, they will come to know that what actually we are trying to carry out in this program. Now here I want to write all the command one after another. Ver for the version, then time, then date. Now I want to save it. So save the file in desktop. I want to name the file as ver time date. Now as we said earlier that the file extension of any bash script will be .bat or cmd, so we want to put .bat as file extension. Now to forcefully ask our operating system to give this .bat extension with this file, we need to put double quotes into the beginning and at the end. So now I want to save the file. So once I hit save, there is a bash script has been created, as you can see here. Now if we want to check the properties, just right click on it, go to properties, and here in the type of file we can see that it's .bat or Windows batch file. Now we can run it in three ways. Just simply double click on it. Now as you can see, it's asking to enter the new time. So as we don't need that, we can just press Ctrl C, and then again we can see the date command has been executed as well, and then press Ctrl C to terminate the batch job. It's asking for yes or no, so just give Y and hit enter. So the file will be closed. The second way is we can select the file, right click on it, and then run as administrator. So here the same way it's asking for the new time and we don't need it, so we can bypass that from Ctrl C, and we don't want to terminate the batch job, then click N. Then again the date command will be executed, and after that I want to press Ctrl C again to terminate the batch job. And the third way is we want to do it from the command line interpreter. So search for run, go to run, select CMD or write CMD here, hit enter. So here as you can see that the command line interpreter is directing to this directory, which is C user and the username. Now what we can do, we have to check that where our bash script is located right now. So here it is in the desktop. So now we can check it from my computer. Go to local disk C, go to users, then the username, and then go to desktop. So here as you can see, this is the file. So now we can copy the path from the top, just right click on it, copy, and go to the command prompt. So CD is used to change the directory. So you want to change the directory and paste it. Now we are in the desktop, as we can see is in C users, then username and desktop. Now what we can do, we can copy the file name and then paste it here, put the .bat extension and hit enter. Now the same way all the commands are executing sequentially. So you can press Ctrl C to bypass, and now as you can see the date command has also been executed. Now we want to press Ctrl C. Now it will ask that whether we want to terminate the batch job or not. So if we put Y, then this will be terminated. Now as we have opened the command prompt from cmd.exe and not by clicking on the file directly, so the cursor will wait for the next command. If we don't want to put any other command here, then we can simply type exit and hit enter. So that's all for this tutorial, and I will see you in the next tutorial.